Yeah, so Martin Morris, he's got a YouTube channel called Before Caledonia. Fantastic. Make sure you subscribe onto it. I was going to talk about Dumfries Galloway, that little peninsula which I highly recommend you visit because some of the sites there are A1. They're absolutely fantastic. So I'll hand you over to Martin.
Right, thanks very much, folks. First of all, I would like to thank Neil for allowing me to speak here. I appreciate the opportunity to share some information and my photography on the ancient sites in Dumfries and Galloway. I would quickly like to just introduce myself and my background in this subject. So my name's Martin Morrison and I do the Before Caledonia YouTube channel. Now, Before Caledonia, it's a Scottish prehistory project which focuses on the Neolithic and Bronze Age stone circles, standing stones and rock art. So 97% of my channel is geared towards that subject. Now, for nearly 25 years I've been visiting ancient sites, mostly in my own country, but also England and Wales as well. So I enjoy photographing these sites. I enjoy doing a bit of filming, I like the video editing, and I do my own research on these prehistoric remains. Now, I'm from Ayrshire, and so was archaeoastronomer Alexander Thom, who is well known for the megalithic yard, and he always gets mentioned at these conferences. So, Ayrshire, it's sparse in prehistoric remains. There's one major site there, and that's the Ballochmyle rock art site. It's one of the best rock art sites in the whole of the UK. So I lived within a 1 hour drive of some of these fantastic Dumfries and Galloway sites. So I consider these my local sites and I know them quite well. If anybody's new to this subject, I think this area, it's got a good selection of varied prehistoric sites. There's a few well-known sites and there's some hidden and obscure gems as well. So we'll see the biggest stone circle in mainland Scotland, the best preserved Bronze Age stone circle in the country. There's some chambered cairns, some standing stones, a Neolithic mound and some rock art. So Dumfries and Galloway, it's in south-west Scotland. If you're driving up the motorway, as soon as you cross the border, you're in Dumfries and Galloway. Now this presentation, it goes in an order, starting from the east side of the county and works its way west, visiting each of the best sites, and we'll finish just shy of the Ayrshire border. There's only 2 or 3 sites in this presentation that's on private land, and I've also put myself in some of these photographs just to give you a sense of scale against the stones. So the image up on the screen there, the silhouette, that's Cairn Holy 2, which we'll see later. So the first site we're going to look at, there's actually 2 stone circles here, the Laupenstains and the Girdlestains stone circles. Now these rings are only 550 metres apart and they've been placed next to the White Esk River in a quiet and remote area. Now these 2 circles, they're situated roughly 15 miles east of Lockerbie, and they're near the small village of Estelmuir and the well-known Sameling Tibetan Centre. It's just up the road. So we'll start with the Laupenstains. Now Laupen, that's a Scottish word which means to jump over, as in I jumped over a wall, and stains obviously means stones. Now what we have here is a stone ring with 2 large entrance stones, roughly 1.5 metres high, and 10 much smaller boulders which make up the circle. It's quite an unusual design for a stone circle, so 12 stones altogether make up the Laupenstains. Now, Neil and Tommy made a video on the Begmore complex in Northern Ireland, and I noticed one of the stone circles at that complex. It's very similar in design to these Laupenstains, and another very similar design circle is Fascally up in Pitlochry, which is the near dead-on centre of Scotland. So the original usage of these circles, as with all these sites, it's long lost, but a few popular theories and ideas is a multifunctional space for meetings, life events, such as birth, coming of age, marriage, death, like a modern day church, and possibly observing the night sky, and I think maybe studying and teaching solar and lunar cycles. Now, Professor Tom, he measured the Laupinstains and he found what he calls a type A flattened circle. So I'm sure lots of people in this room are aware of Caroline Hoare and Gary Baltcliffe's work with their excellent book, The Spine of Albion, which tracks the female current Ellen and the male current Belinus through the UK. So these Laupinstains and the next site, the Girdlestains, are both on that female Ellen current, and so is that Sammy Ling Tibetan Centre. Now, it's also thought there could have been a stone avenue between these two circles. This image shows one of the stones which could be in the avenue. You can see the Laupinstains entrance pillars just up here. And I should have mentioned, these two circles, the Laupinstains and the Girdlestains, they're not visible from each other. So a 550 metre walk will bring us up to the next site, the Girdlestains. So the Girdlestains, it's a half-shaped stone circle which is nearly unique in Scotland. It's 40 metres in diameter and much bigger than the Laupinstains. Now, the name girdle, it's thought to mean a flat rounded surface or a cooking utensil. Now, it's thought this site would have been, it's thought this site would have been a complete circle, with the White Esk River changing course over time and taking with it the western arc of the circle. I think this might originally have been just a half-stone circle. Now, if the river did take away half the stones and it fell into disuse, did the ancient people then build the nearby Laupinstains? And the White Esk River, it's just at the right-hand side there. So this semicircular design, it's not unique in Scotland. Another half ring can be found on Isle of Lewis near Bernera Bridge, which is known as Callanish 8. And like the Girdlestains, it's situated directly next to a river. Now, in 1993, a geophysical survey was undertaken, and the findings were several pits within the enclosure, with further pits along the line of the circle. Right, the tallest stone is in the North Arc, and there's a possible entrance situated in the southeast section. There's around 26 stones which make up the semicircle, and it's assumed there were originally 45 boulders which would have made up a complete ring. Now, just a few of my own thoughts and ideas in these two sites. Perhaps the Laupinstains is the male site, with the male-like phallic entrance stones and the 12 stones possibly representing the 12-month solar year. Now, the Girdlestains could be the female site with the half circle symbolic of the crescent moon and the close proximity to water, which is also associated with the female, and the Ellen current flowing through the site as well. So this might be a male-female ceremonial ritual site. So we've just looked at two interesting stone circles here. The biggest stone circle in Scotland is the Ring of Brodgar up in Orkney. However, the biggest in the mainland and one of the largest in the UK is the 12 Apostles. First of all, this 12 Apostles, it's not to be confused with the 12 Apostles stone circle on Eitlemoor. Although this is the biggest stone circle in mainland Scotland, it's not a fancy site with big tall standing stones like the stones of Stinnes or Callanish. And just to get a feel of the size of this site, this image takes in the whole ring. I know it's hard to see the stones here, but I'll show some close-ups. So the ring is located a couple of miles north of Dumfries. It's a huge 90-metre diameter circle from the Bronze Age or late Neolithic. The circle's quite difficult to photograph because of the spacing of the surviving stones. There's 11 stones left in the circle, and 5 of these are lying recumbent. A 1789 plan shows 12 stones at the site, and it's possible 18 boulders could have completed the ring. Now, the type of stone here, it's predominantly Silurian bar 1, which is porphyry, and the rock I'm sitting on there, it's got some natural cut holes. So the 12 apostles, it's not a true circle, it's a type 1 egg shape, which was measured by Professor Tom in 1939, and a second circle of 9 stones once existed about a mile away, but unfortunately this was used for building material, which was common at these sites. So very close by is 2 cursus enclosures. The Hollywood South cursus was constructed in the early Neolithic, which predates the circle, and the dimensions of the cursus is 285 metres by 35 metres. So the cursus is bisected by the B729 road, which runs directly next to the circle. And Stonehenge has got a couple of these cursus enclosures. Up in Scotland there's over 30 of these. They're kind of roughly cigar, ruler shaped, kind of enigmatic earthworks. So in 1882, a 4-inch high bronze figure of St Norbert was found inside the circle, and this was dated to the 1100s AD. Also inside the ring was white quartz. So the 12 apostles, it's a big open circle, which puts me in mind of Longmeg and her daughters up in Cumbria. Now, the 12 apostles, it's not signposted, but there's public access. There's a possible outlier stone on screen here, and it may be a boulder which has been dragged from the circle. It's got a small plaque on top with some basic information about the site. So far we've looked at 3 interesting stone circles, and we'll look at something a bit different. Right, this is probably the best rock art site in Dumfries Galloway. The site can be found at Highbanks Farm near Kirkcudbright, and there's public access here. Now what we have here, it's a 30-metre long sloping exposed natural rock outcrop, which is saturated with common cut marks. And in the centre we've got the classic cup and ring design. So these are the common rock art designs found in the UK and beyond. Now this is me just at the main outcrop, just for a bit of scale. It's much longer than that, and these glyphs must have been very important to the Neolithic people. So standing stones and stone circles sometimes have rock art, but it's mostly just cut marks. The cup and ring design, like in this image here, is less common. It does appear sometimes, and an exemption to that is Longmeg, I mentioned earlier, which has got many cup and ring designs. So the cup and ring design, it's got a channel or a gutter which comes from the centre. Now the classic cup mark, it's a circular carved depression which ranges in size from a 10-pence piece to the size of an ashtray, and cup marks are sometimes found in clusters or commonly surrounded by one or multiple rings. Now this photo shows the stunning landscape view you get from the outcrop. That's the outcrop just there. It's quite hard to see. And this is a common theme from these sites. And I think when visiting stone circles or rock art, it's important to look at the landscape all around. See for a prominent hill or a hill range or an unusual landscape feature. So the cup and ring carving here is surrounded by many cut marks, which is unusual. Now the Kilmartin Glen area up in Argyll and Bute, that's probably the best place in the UK to see these intricate carved patterns. Just tomorrow there's a brand new museum at Kilmartin opening up. There's a very good YouTube channel in rock art called Scotland's Rock Art Project Conference. There's lots of good lectures on there. On my channel as well, there's some rock art films as well. and I made a film on the Cocknell stone when it got uncovered in 2016. So the next site, this is the Stonehenge of Dumfries Galloway, Cairnholy 1. So Cairnholy 1, this is the best and most recognisable site in the county. There's two sites here which are a short 150 metre walk from each other, the other site being Cairnholy 2. Now, Cairnholy 1 is the more elaborate of the two, and I think the iconic Neolithic site in southwest Scotland. So the site's well signposted from the A75 road. Now, the site is known as a Clyde cairn design type found in southwest Scotland. Now, looking at the site from the forecourt here is the main feature of 8 standing stones making up a curved facade. Now, there's a central chamber just behind myself, and on the ground just at my feet there's a recumbent stone there. Now, notice how the 4 stones on the left, they gradually rise in height, and the 4 stones on the right hand side, they seem to go in like an arc. Now, see this right hand standing stone here, it's got an arc roughly a third of the way up, very similar to that arc at the top there. So there's 2 chambers between the middle 2 stones. The outer chamber is accessed through the middle 2 stones. I can just squeeze through there. The inner box was constructed as a closed compartment which was lightly covered by a capstone. Now, an aerial view of Cairnholy, to me, it kind of looks like a bird, with the recumbent 4 quartz stone here being the head, and the 8 standing stones, I think, resemble wings, and the 2 chambers could be the body. And something else, I also think the layout design may represent the female reproductive system, with the 2 chambers being the birth canal and uterus, and the curved standing stones could be the fallopian tubes. Perhaps there was birthing or rebirth ceremonies taking place inside the chamber. And Peter mentioned something kind of similar in his talk. Now, the site is thought to be over 5,000 years old, and originally cairn material would have extended back to near where the modern car park is, just behind that wall there. So the cairn measurements would have been 45 metres long by 10 metres wide, and sparse remains of this cairn can still be seen. Now, the bulk of the cairn mass was used for field walls and building material. There's a site near the end of this presentation which still has a long cairn, and it's something very similar to Cairnholy's original construction, and I'll point that out later. So the ancient people, they carefully located the site on a sloping hill high above Wigton Bay, and on a clear day you can see the Isle of Man. Now, the Isle of Man's got a very well-known site called Castellan Yard, which looks very similar to Cairnholy 1. And I also think it was important to the builders that the sea is visible from both these Cairnholy sites, as they may have wanted to view like a true horizon. Now, the sloping stone on the left-hand side here, it's got a very faint cup and ring mark, and if you know it's there, you can find it. It's really hard to see. Now, just opposite this, on the 3rd standing stone and the inside of the 3rd standing stone from the left, just in here, there's a very unusual and subtle feature. Peck marks. Now, these peck marks, I've never came across these at any other Neolithic or Bronze Age site. It may be intentional that these 2 designs are slightly opposite each other. And how old these peck marks are, I don't know. You can see a cluster just in the very middle here, and at the top there's more of them, which seem to take on like a kind of triangle a triangular shape at the top. And I'll also say these are not cut marks, these seem to be different. So the site was excavated in 1949 by archaeologists Stuart Piggott and Terence Powell, but long before this, nearly all the bone had been dissolved due to the acidic soil. Now, a very interesting find here was a piece of ceremonial wax which came from the European Alps. It was made of green jadeite and it was found in the outer chamber. So some other finds were a flint knife, a leaf-shaped arrowhead, a stone hole, 6 fires with hearths, pottery and pitch stone from the Isle of Arran. So this image here, you can see how the edge of the cairn, it stretches all the way back to the modern car park. Now, I checked the orientation of the middle chamber and I noticed it was slightly off east-west, and I thought there must be an equinox function aligned with the middle 2 standing stones. Now, at Spring Equinox 2022, I drove to Cairnholy with the intention to find out if the site has an equinox function. So I set up my camera and tripod directly opposite and in line with the central chamber. And at 5:52 PM on Sunday the 20th of March 2022, I captured this. Now you can see this film on my channel. This is a still image from that footage. So the equinox happens twice a year, on March the 20th and March 21st, then exactly 6 months later in September the 22nd or 23rd, which is in just a few weeks' time. So these days were very important to the ancient people, as were the 2 solstices. So equi means equal and nox means night. Equal night and day, so balance and harmony. And the spring equinox, that's also the start of the astrological year. Right, this image, this is a selfie I took in my iPhone at Cairnholy 1, and you can see like a rainbow effect there, some kind of rainbow shimmering effect, and kind of down there there's like a streak as well. What that is I don't know, maybe the guardian spirit of the site. So 150 metre walk up the farm track takes us to Cairnholy 2. So Cairnholy 2, it's a different design and less elaborate than Cairnholy 1. It's still one of the best the best prehistoric sites in southwest Scotland. Even this site just alone is worth a visit, but you get 2 sites here. It's maybe a bit smaller than what you would think. So like Cairnholy 1, we've got an excellent Clyde type chambered cairn from the New Stone Age era. And these chambered cairns are also found in Ireland and the Atlantic coast of Europe. There's a 3 metre high portal stone here. And you can see the second stone on the left, it's broken. And like Cairnholy 1, these twin pillars form an entrance into a passage, then a second chamber, which is capped by a stone slab. Now the entrance to the site was blocked off when the site's usage came to an end, and this happened with sites in Orkney and West Kennet Longbarrow, for example. It's as if when this Neolithic era came to an end, some sites were symbolically blocked off or infilled, and the blocking stone, this now lies recumbent in a V-shaped forecourt. So I mentioned the excavations in 1949 by archaeologists Powell and Piggott, and similar finds were found at both sites. The inner antechamber had a hearth, pieces of 5 or 6 beaker pots, a knife made of flint, and an arrowhead shaped like a leaf. Now, Cairnholy 2 and Torhouse Stone Circle, which we'll see just shortly. They're both meant to be the tomb of the Scottish King Galdus. I've actually managed to squeeze in there a few times. So, now, very close to these Cairnholy sites is another fascinating stone circle just across Cambric Moor. This is Glenquicken. So Glenquicken, this is one of the sites in private land. It's 2 miles east of Creetown and not far from Cairnholy. And this is one of my favourite circles. It's a beautiful and complete ring that sits in Cambric Moor. Now Glenquicken, it's 17 metres in diameter and made up of 29 boulders and a central megalith. Now the number 29 is interesting because there's a 29.5 day synodic lunar month. And the central stone, it's a 4-ton megalith, which is nearly 2 metres high and made of hard granite. So this middle upright, it may be a kind of phallic stone representing fertility. And one of the stones in the circle could be a chair. Now, archaeoastronomer Alexander Thom, he measured Glenquicken and calculated what he called a type A flattened circle. Now, in this image here, now I think it's pronounced Knockins Hill. Now, to me, this hill, it kind of resembles a sleeping dragon. See, just at the left here, it's like a head, and the arc of the hill, it kind of resembles a body. It's like a kind of sleeping dragon. And I think this landscape hill feature was very important to the ancient people in the placement of this circle. It's also like, is it Swinside in Cumbria? There's a prominent hill. And is it Gamelin Stone Circle in Cumbria? They both have like prominent hills. That's me just at the central megalith, just for a bit of scale. Now, something else very interesting I came across when doing research in this site was very close by. There were 2 cairns which held skeletons of an unusually large size, and you can find that information on the Canmore website. So that's Glenquicken Stone Circle. So the next site, this is one of my favourites. It's a pristine ring in the best preserved Bronze Age stone circle in Scotland. It's Torhouse. So along with Glenquicken and the Cairnholy sites, I consider Torhouse as one of my local sites. It's a Torhouse, it's a 1-hour drive from my hometown, and I've been visiting here for nearly 18 years. It's a Torhouse, it's a stone circle, it's in pristine condition. There's no stones missing, which is quite rare. Now the ring is around 4,000 years old, which makes it one of the younger circles, and even back in my early days of visiting this site, I felt it was a younger circle. So the ring's a few miles west of Wigton, the book town, and Historic Environment Scotland, they look after the site. It's a Torhouse, it's made up of 19 granite stones, it's laid out in a diameter of 20 metres, and the ring sits in a slightly raised platform like the Laupenstains. In this circle, it's never been excavated. Now in the middle of the circle is 3 stones, which is quite unusual for a stone circle. I was at Torhouse the day before winter solstice in 2018 and filmed the sunset from this triple boulder setting. The weather wasn't great, but there's a short sped up film of that footage on my channel. Clearance from the 1800s, and in 1684 the 3-stone row was called King Galdus's tomb by the minister of Kirkinner. And remember I mentioned that about Cairnholy too. It was also called King Galdus's tomb. Now a few unusual features I'm going to point out. There's a possible chair here in the North Arc. The top of the stone, it's very comfortable for an adult to sit on, and I actually think that's intentional. I think it is a chair. And there was also one at the last stone circle as well, Glenquicken. Something else, see Torhouse, it's probably a good site for somebody to visit that maybe doesn't have great mobility, because the car park is right next to the circle, then there's just a gate to walk through. So you don't need to walk far to get to this site. So this image here shows one of the smaller stones, which looks as if it's been sliced, or maybe intentionally picked because half the stone is missing. Now, could this stone represent the 0.6, seeing the 18.6 year lunar cycle, with 19 obviously being the whole number? And there's 19 stones in this ring. A few other stone circles with 19 stones, as Boscawen Nun and the Mary Maidens down in Cornwall. It's a Torhouse, it's a type A flattened circle, again measured by Alexander Thom. It's flattened in the southeast arc, where the stones are biggest, and this image is me for scale at that largest stone, which is roughly 1.4 metres high. And from here, the stones gradually decrease in size. And this big stone here, it's also got a few suspect cut marks. So Glenquicken and Torhouse, they've got a few things in common. Both sites have possible lunar numbers. Glenquicken, the 29.5 day lunar month. Torhouse, the 18.6 year cycle. And I mentioned Glenquicken could have a chair. And both sites are roughly the same size and have that type A flattened design. Now, across the road on the brow of the hill, it's really hard to make out. Just here is another 3 stone setting, 130 metres from the circle. So this is similar to the triple setting we've seen inside the circle. These stones are actually in private land, and I visited Torhouse on summer solstice sunrise way back in 2007, which would have been June the 20th, 21st at around 4:25 AM. Now, this image is summer solstice sunrise. As you can see, the stones kind of roughly point towards that major solar event. It maybe looks a bit slightly to the left. Now, this would have been an important event to the ancient ancestors. Just at this point, folks, we've looked at Cairnholy 1 with the equinox orientation and the possible lunar numbers with Glenquicken and Torhouse. And, I mean, could these sites have been a way of tracking and counting the natural movements of the sun and the moon, which was perhaps part of their ritual ceremonies? I'm maybe jumping the gun a bit there, but this photo here, this is summer solstice sunrise from inside Torhouse Stone Circle. So that's Torhouse, one of my favourite sites. So next we'll look at a few standing stones. So Dumtrodden standing stones are in the Machers area and a couple of miles east of Port William. So this image here was taken on my first visit in 2006, and at that time there were 2 out of 3 standing stones still standing. Now, the stone on the right here has since fallen, and you can see at the base it was very thin, and it was also leaning at quite an angle. Now, on my second visit in 2010, I was gutted but not surprised. The standing stone had fallen. So now only one of the original trilogy is still standing. It's the stone at the bottom there which has collapsed. So the stones are around 3 metres high and would have been a big project for the people of the Neolithic or Bronze Age, which is when these megaliths were likely erected. Now, the one remaining standing stone, to me it resembles a hooded figure, which you notice at other sites as well. And from these stones there's commanding landscape views, which is another common theme if you go to these sites, stone circles, standing stones, etc. Now, very close by, just 400 metres away from is Dumfries rock art site. It's a short drive up the road, there's public access there. Now, I've left that site out of this presentation because there's not a great deal to see and I found it very hard to capture on camera. But having said that, one of the carvings there is probably the biggest I've seen, which was on a par with the largest cup and ring petroglyph at Achnabrek up in Kilmartin. It's still very worth a visit if you're exploring these stones. That rock art site, I think it's just beyond these trees here. So I wonder if the rock art site is connected to these megaliths in some way. In the Machars area around Dumfries, it's rich in historical sites from various timelines like St Ninian's Cave, Chapel Finnan and Torhouse, which we've just seen. So the next site we'll look at, this is quite different. So Druchduil Neolithic Mound. So not far from Stranraer is Druchduil Neolithic Mound near Dunragit village. Now this location, it's supposedly one of the most important Neolithic sites in Scotland. Although all that's left today is an overgrown mound, which was originally thought to be a medieval moat. Now the site came to light in, the site 92, and this revealed a Neolithic centre which was unnoticeable at ground level. Now the overgrown mound was assumed to be an earth moat of a 12th century castle. And this image here I took from the top of the mound just to show you the landscape. So excavations confirmed the mound was contemporary with the other nearby prehistoric sites. Now optically stimulated luminescence dating was used to date the material excavated from the mound, which was dated circa 2500 BC, making it 4500 years old. So this dating compares Druchduil Mound with Silbury Hill in Wiltshire, which is the biggest and well-known prehistoric mound in the UK. Now the oval-shaped base here, 10 metres, and this is much smaller than Silbury Hill.